There's a funny thing about being a man who spends 10 hours a day debugging code. After a while, life starts to look like one giant pattern recognition puzzle. You stop seeing events, and you start seeing data points, irregularities, outliers, spikes. And if you're anything like me, you start logging those anomalies. I'm Eric Bennett, 33 years old, working remotely as a systems engineer out of a quiet ranch-style home in Raleigh, North Carolina. My job involves spotting discrepancies in massive code bases before they become million-dollar bugs. I don't get rattled easily. I don't shout. I don't jump to conclusions. I log, I observe, and I analyze, which is exactly what I did the moment my wife, Kendra, started wearing heels. Now, let me back up. Kendra and I had been married for 6 years. She was never the heels and lipstick on a Saturday morning type. She was more slippers and sarcastic podcasts. The woman, once called stilettos mini torture devices for idiots, and yet one crisp Sunday morning she strutted out of the house for a jog in 4-inch Louboutins and a full face of makeup that looked like it had taken at least a YouTube tutorial and 2 Sephora gift cards to assemble. "Jogging," she said. Didn't say a word. Instead, I created a new tab in my budget spreadsheet and titled it Anomalies, Personal. Color-coded, of course. Blue for wardrobe shifts, green for schedule deviations, red for intimacy droughts. There were a lot of reds. She'd also enrolled in a public speaking for women in leadership course. Seemed innocent enough. But I noticed her voice changed. After the 3rd session, a deliberate, breathy tone when she said words like presentation and negotiation. Suddenly, every conversation sounded like a TED Talk. She even called our dinner plans a collaboration opportunity. Yeah, she started keeping her phone screen down on the counter, and she'd added Face ID. That was new. For years, her passcode was 7383. Easy to remember because it spells Riti on a keypad. A dumb inside joke from our honeymoon in Italy. Now, her face was the key. And I didn't have the face. I wasn't going to become that guy who scrolls through his wife's texts in the middle of the night with a flashlight. That's not me. I needed facts, not paranoia. So I decided to treat the situation like any other project. No assumptions, just evidence. The spreadsheet grew. Thursday night, board meeting ran late. Home at 10:47 p.m., lipstick still fresh. Entered as possible anomaly, makeup longevity, Revlon color stay. Saturday morning, going for a run. Returned 90 minutes later with 0 sweat and a whiff of Sauvage by Dior. Marked olfactory. Inconsistency. Unisex cologne? Doubtful. One afternoon, I counted 6 separate Venmo payments to someone named Jay with emojis ranging from wine glasses to a damn eggplant. I'm a married man, not a moron. But still, I didn't accuse her of anything. That's not how you win wars. You win with information. You win with structure. And so, the alienation project began. I didn't tell anyone. Not my buddies, not my brother, not even the Reddit r/surviving infidelity crowd. I didn't need advice. I needed patterns. Patterns always tell the truth. Eventually. Now here's the kicker. I wasn't angry. Not really. Not yet. The truth is, I was fascinated. I felt like a wildlife photographer capturing a species in the wild. Watching her prep before a Zoom client meeting with a curling iron and a perfume I'd never seen before, I should have been furious. Instead, I was curious. What kind of animal paints itself up like that to sit in front of a laptop? Camera for 40 minutes? One night, just for fun, I placed a decoy folder on our shared Google Drive. I named it Vacation Ideas 2025. Inside was a blank document titled Things to Do in Tulum, which I knew she'd click on because we'd once argued about whether Tulum was overrated. She says yes. I say we can't afford it. I turned on edit tracking. She opened it. She scrolled. She closed it. Just checking if I was planning something? She didn't ask. I didn't tell. The silence between us started to stretch, like a rubber band pulled, too tight. We were still polite, still slept in the same bed, but the warmth was gone, and she never touched me anymore, not even absent-mindedly. At night, I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling fan. Tick, tick, tick. That subtle rhythm, like the countdown to a breach. That's when I decided to test the waters. I brewed some coffee, pulled out my laptop, and sat across from her at the breakfast table like I was about to pitch a startup. "I need your help with something," I said. "I'm doing a post on Reddit about the economics of intimacy, kind of a thought experiment. How would you quantify the cost of physical affection if it were transactional? Ballpark figure. For science." She blinked. "Wait, what?" "You know, let's say someone offered you money, hypothetically, for an evening of your time. What's your going rate?" She laughed like I'd told a bad joke at a funeral. "Eric, that's disgusting. Just a hypothetical," I replied. "People are curious. Reddit loves this stuff. We could make it a couple's post. I'll anonymize it." "No," she said flatly. "It's creepy." She stood up. She was wearing that soft gray sweater I used to love. Now it just looked like a costume. "What if someone was with you not for love, but for perks?" I added casually. "Wouldn't you want to know what price they'd put on you? I mean, what do you think you're worth to a guy who already has a wife?" That did it. She turned around so fast her earring hit her cheek. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I shrugged. "Just a thought experiment." She slammed the mug in the sink and left the house 10 minutes. Later, muttering something about needing space. She left her AirPods, though. I marked that as a variable. Exit in haste. 3.55 emotional spike. That night, I did something I hadn't done before. I opened the cloud. Our shared drive hadn't been used in months, but she'd forgotten to change permissions on her iCloud backups, and there it was. A video, less than 20 seconds. Shot by accident, judging by the low angle. Just a blurry hotel carpet, a pair of brown loafers, and a voice I didn't recognize laughing in the background. But it wasn't just the loafers. It was the cufflinks. Gold, shaped like tiny chess pieces. Pawns, maybe. Or kings. I zoomed in. Bingo. That was enough to start searching backwards. I checked metadata, timestamps, geotags. Then came the real prize, screenshots of a chat with her friend Kara. Kara. "He booked the suite again? Damn, what did you wear?" Kendra. "The black one. The heels that make me hate myself. Totally worth it." Kara. "Ugh, his poor wife. She looks like an accountant who lost her will to accessorize." I closed the laptop. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I made another cup of coffee. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the number I found listed as emergency contact on a hotel guest info form I'd pulled using a little tech magic. A woman answered. "Hi," I said. "Is this Monica?" "You don't know me, but I think your husband's been having fun at the Marriott every other Saturday with mine." I paused. "Just kidding. I'm the husband. But we need to talk." I met Monica at a Waffle House, not because we're trashy, though I won't pretend I didn't enjoy the pecan waffle, but because it was halfway between our neighborhoods and open late. Plus, it felt neutral. No one ever stages dramatic confrontations next to laminated menus and syrup dispensers. She arrived 5 minutes early, dressed like a woman who knew something was wrong before I even said a word. Crisp blazer, no makeup, tired eyes that didn't try to fake anything. "You're Eric," she said, not a question. I nodded. "And you're Monica. I guess we're in the same support group now." We sat. No hugs, no pleasantries. I slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were 4 printouts, 2 screenshots, 1 blurry photo from the hotel camera feed, and a copy of a message Kara sent about Jace's taste in wine and lingerie. Monica didn't speak for almost a full minute. She just stared. Her jaw tensed, not shaking, not breaking down, just loading, like a processor under stress. I respected it. When she finally looked up, she asked, "So, what now? You want to burn their lives down together, or you got a softer plan?" I sipped my coffee. Black, no sugar. "Neither. I want justice, not vengeance. And I don't want to make a scene. I want to make a statement." She tilted her head. "I'm listening." That's how we began what I now refer to as Operation Chessboard. See, if there's one thing most cheaters underestimate, It's the combined IQ of two betrayed spouses with quiet rage issues and access to Excel. I built a new spreadsheet. This one wasn't just a tracker, it was a dossier. I called it Alienation Project North Carolina Edition. Sounded like a Netflix true crime doc. And in a way, it was. I logged timestamps of every known interaction between Jace and Kendra. Receipts from hotel bookings linked to his Amex. Monica had access. Text logs, complete with emojis decoded like we were at the CIA. Map routes from Kendra's jogs to actual hotel locations. Outfit analysis. What she wore, what was missing from her closet, and which work meetings happened to line up with Jace's calendar thanks to a LinkedIn stalker account Monica had made in college and never deleted. The more we dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't a fling. It was a pattern, a project, a campaign of dishonesty wrapped in spa towels and $90 Cabernet. The legal angle came later, and it was Monica who discovered it, bless her rage-driven research skills. She called me one night and said, "Did you know in North Carolina we can actually sue Jace? Like, in court. Real damages. It's called alienation of affection." Now, I'm a software engineer, not a lawyer, but I knew two things. One, that sounded absurd enough to be real. Two, I wanted to print the court documents on heavyweight paper just for the drama. Turns out Monica had a friend, well, more like a friend of her brother's divorce attorney, who specialized in this exact kind of lawsuit. A shark in pumps named Deborah Finley. She didn't blink when Monica laid out the situation. "She's not going to win him back," Deborah said, flipping through the dossier like she was reviewing an IPO. "But we can win something else. Money, public shame, and leverage." Kendra, meanwhile, had no idea what was coming. That was part of the plan. I played it cool. No accusations, no passive-aggressive remarks. I even left sticky notes on the fridge that said things like, "Have a great day," and "Love you." She started acting lighter, like she thought the storm had passed. She started humming again in the mornings. I let her hum. Then, the night. Before the papers were served, I cooked ribs. Not a metaphor, literal ribs. Slow-cooked, glazed, falling off the bone. Her favorite, Pig Heaven brand rub. I'd ordered it online just for the occasion. While the oven timer ticked, I slid a folder onto the kitchen island. Matte black, thick paper, printed label. 2. Kendrar, a sincere warning. Inside was the full report, photos, printouts. A polite letter from Deborah stating we intended to file for alienation of affection within 7 days unless certain conditions were met. There was also a sticky note. "Tell your boyfriend he might want to call a lawyer." Or 3. Monica already did, and she's not playing checkers. I went back to the oven. Kendra walked in 20 minutes later, smiling, heels clicking. She saw the folder. She opened it. She read silently, her face shifting in slow motion. I didn't even look at her. I just turned the ribs over with tongs and said, "You might want to sit down. Oven's almost done, and shock plus hot meat is a bad combo." She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She passed out. Just boom, like a sack of overpriced secrets. Crashed right into the counter stool and slid down like her soul unplugged. I caught the edge of the folder before it hit the floor. The ribs dinged. I plated them neatly, added coleslaw, and took a bite. Tender. Smoky. A little sweet. Just like closure. The morning after Kendra collapsed onto our kitchen floor like a collapsing tower of champagne flutes, things got very quiet in the Bennett household. She didn't say a word for hours. Just walked around in a daze. Occasionally, opening the fridge like she was hoping something inside might explain how her carefully maintained double life had just exploded in her face over baby back ribs. I didn't gloat. I didn't even look smug. You can't be smug when you're this organized. I was methodical, precise, calm. The guy who doesn't raise his voice, he's the guy people should worry about. By noon, she finally asked, You're actually suing him?" I looked up from my laptop and sipped my coffee. "Not yet. Depends on how this week goes. He's got 7 days to respond. Tick-tock." That's when the panic set in. Not the emotional kind. Not regret or shame. No, this was logistical panic. The kind of stress that hits someone when they realize they've underestimated the wrong man. She wasn't afraid I'd leave her. She was afraid I'd win. Monica and I stayed in lockstep. She handled the legal strategy with Deborah, while I expanded the dossier. This wasn't about dragging names through the mud. This was about building a case so tight it squeaked. Every booking, every phone ping, every receipt from overpriced tapas bars and luxury car rentals. Jace, it turned out, had been very generous with his Amex. The man treated adultery like a business investment. Hotel suites, rose petal packages, imported wine, spa add-ons. I even found a charge for in-room butler aromatherapy. Who the hell cheats with aromatherapy? We included everything in the final evidence packet. Monica, bless her tactical heart, even got her hands on a photo of the matching watches he'd given both of them. Same model, different color bands, dual wristwear, the dumbest signature in extramarital history. Then came the press. Deborah knew a guy, some reporter for the local paper who loved legal oddities. Once he got wind of a high-profile alienation suit involving a tech entrepreneur and a PR executive with 2 betrayed spouses armed with receipts and spreadsheets, he couldn't resist. The headline practically wrote itself. Wife's affair exposed by Google Drive folder. Husband builds legal case, not revenge. It went viral in a very North Carolina way, shared in Facebook mom groups, Nextdoor threads, and on the morning radio, where everyone pretends they don't love drama but eats it with a spoon. By the time the court hearing was officially scheduled, Jace had lost 3 clients, 1 investor, and, according to an anonymous tip on Reddit, a speaking engagement at something called Southeastern Leadership Forum. I assume that was where he practiced giving his mistress the same advice he gave startups. Scale fast, exit smart. The day we walked into the courthouse, I wore a navy suit with a matte black tie. Monica wore heels sharp enough to pierce concrete. We didn't speak to Jace or Kendra. We didn't need to. The power shift was visible. They were the deer. We were the headlights. The judge didn't laugh when Deborah introduced our case. He nodded, listened, reviewed the exhibits, and let it move forward. In North Carolina, the law still cares if someone intentionally dismantles your marriage, and in our case, we had a full blueprint of the demolition. The best part? We didn't even have to finish the trial. By the end of week 1, Jace's lawyer called Deborah with a settlement offer. 6 figures. Confidentiality clause. No admission of guilt. I accepted. Monica accepted, but not before making one last demand. I want the settlement check hand-delivered, she said, by his assistant, to my lawyer's office. I want him to know he didn't even get to drop it in the mailbox. Done. After it was all finalized, Monica and I split the money 50-50. It was poetic. I joked, "Business partners split profits. You earned it." She smirked. This might be the only successful partnership I've ever had. Kendra moved out a week later. She didn't cry, didn't beg. Just packed her things into 2 suitcases and a tote bag with "Live, Laugh, Love" on it. I almost laughed at that. She left her yoga mat behind, and for a brief second, I considered burning it on the grill like a pagan sacrifice to closure. Instead, I threw a barbecue. I invited my brother, 2 of my neighbors, Monica and Deborah, yes, the lawyer. We grilled ribs, again. Same recipe, same rub, Pig Heaven brand. Someone asked, "Is this like a celebration or something?" I said, "No, just project completion." Kendra didn't show, of course, but her scent still lingered faintly in the upstairs hallway for a week or 2, like expensive guilt trapped in the carpet. I kept the black folder, framed the cover, hung it in my office next to my engineering degree. Every time someone asked what it was, I said, "That's what happens when you don't ignore the data." But even with the settlement, the closure, the justice, there was still that weird quiet, that vacuum that forms after something detonates, when the dust settles and the adrenaline fades. The moment you realize winning doesn't mean it didn't cost you something, so I took a break from people, from dating, from trying. For 2 years, I built things, apps, furniture, a garden box that somehow attracted squirrels but 0 tomatoes. And then, one Saturday morning, I took my nephew to his basketball tournament. That's where I met Rachel. She had two boys on the same team, twins with identical haircuts and a habit of calling each other bro, unironically. She was a widow, cancer, 5 years ago, and carried herself like a woman who didn't have time for nonsense. I liked that. She made fun of my coffee thermos, said I looked like a scoutmaster. I told her I didn't trust concession stand coffee after one too many styrofoam disasters. We talked, laughed. It was easy. On our third date, we sat in my backyard under a string of warm patio lights. I grilled, of course, and she asked me why I pulled her chair out for her every time. I said, because I was raised right, and because if I treat you like a queen, maybe you'll forget I once got dumped via aromatherapy. She blinked, then grinned. Is that a real story? I nodded. Want the file? I've got charts. She laughed, then got quiet, then said something I still think about. You're not soft. You're just deliberate. I like that. 8 months later, I proposed. Her boys were the best men. One held the ring. The other held a sign that said, "Let's make this official." We got married in a botanical garden. Small, private, catered with ribs and coleslaw and cornbread that made people cry. Then, the real plot twist, twins. That's right. Karma, irony, God. Someone had a twisted sense of humor. Rachel just smiled through labor like a champ and said, "Now you're outnumbered." She wasn't wrong, and as I stood there in that hospital room, holding two tiny, wrinkled humans while their brothers snored on the couch and Rachel dozed beside me, I whispered, "Well, looks like the spreadsheet just got bigger. Some people say revenge is sweet. I disagree. Sweet is what you taste, when the ribs are falling off the bone just right, when your wife smiles at you from across the table like she hasn't done in years, or when a 6-year-old calls you Dad without hesitation, like it was always meant to be that way. Revenge isn't sweet. It's satisfying, but it's not sweet. Sweet is what you get when you've truly moved on. When the war's over and you're sitting on your porch with a baby monitor in one hand and a cold beer in the other, watching your dog chase fireflies like he's trying to debug the night sky. That's where I am now. It's been 2 years since Kendra packed her tote bag and left behind her secrets, her yoga mat, and the last scraps of her high heels. We haven't spoken since the final court settlement. No emails, no apologies. Just silence. Clean, unbroken silence. The kind that feels more respectful than anything we said in our last year together. I heard through the grapevine that Jace moved out of state, something about a fresh start in Colorado. I wonder if he told his new circle of friends the story of how he lost his company, his wife, and a significant chunk of his net worth to a guy who tracks betrayal in spreadsheets. Doubt it. Monica, for the record, is thriving. She opened her own consulting firm, Irony of Ironies, helping women rebuild after divorce. She calls it Reclaim PR. Her tagline? We clean up what other people mess up. I laughed for 10 minutes when I first read it. She still sends me Christmas cards. Signed, your ex-wife's ex-friend, your co-survivor, your partner in spreadsheets. Rachel and I, we're solid. She jokes that I'm still a bit too structured, that I schedule intimacy like it's a dentist appointment and sort the mail alphabetically. But she also says she's never felt more safe, or respected, or seen. Her boys call me Dad now. I didn't ask them to. They just started doing it one day like they'd collectively decided I'd passed some kind of invisible test. They leave. Their socks all over the damn house, argue about who gets the last Pop-Tart, and occasionally prank me by switching out my coffee for decaf. I love every second of it. The twins, Nora and Eli, are chaos incarnate. Wobbling around the house, like miniature CEOs on a mission to break anything not nailed down. They've each discovered the joy of pulling off their diapers at the exact moment I take a phone call. Timing is apparently genetic. We don't live in the same house where Kendra and I shared a life. Rachel and I bought a new place, single story, wraparound porch, a swing that creaks just enough to feel nostalgic without being a safety hazard. There's a grill out back. Of course, Pig Heaven rub, stacked in bulk in the pantry. Some habits never die, but here's the part I didn't expect. Sometimes when everything's quiet, when the kids are asleep and the dog's snoring and Rachel's curled up next to me reading something with a title like Raising Resilient. Boys in a Chaotic World. I think about the folder. Alienation Project. North Carolina edition. I still have it. Not because I'm bitter, not because I miss her, but because it reminds me of something I think most people forget. You can lose everything. And still win. Not by screaming, not by burning things down, but by documenting, planning, waiting, and then walking away with your dignity and a folder full of facts. People ask me sometimes, friends, old co-workers, even a neighbor who caught wind of the story on Reddit, how I stayed so calm, how I didn't snap, how I kept it together while my life cracked apart like a windshield under pressure. I tell them this. I treated it like a bug in the system, and bugs don't get emotions. They get patched and the program moves on. They laugh. But it's true. We spend so much time wanting dramatic closure, some epic final showdown, some grand monologue that ends with tears and regret. But you know what hits harder? Silence. A delivered lawsuit, a framed folder in an office, and a barbecue, where everyone leaves full and no one cries. I don't need closure. I got documentation. And now I've got a wife who never hides her phone, kids who yell, "Dad," when I walk through the door like I'm a rock star instead of a guy who once lost everything and built it all back again with a spreadsheet, a sense of humor, and some damn good ribs. So if you're reading this because you're where I was, confused, suspicious, tired, numb, here's what I'll tell you. Stay calm. Take notes. Don't shout. Build your case. Then build your life back. Just don't forget to preheat the grill. Because revenge gets cold. But ribs are best served hot.